Hello, viewers. You're tuning in with Alun and Soren. They both came back from the Big Apple in New York City for NFT-Nyc, and they're going to share with us a bit of their feedback. Coming from the Big Apple, let us know, what is the differences between NFT-Nyc this year and last year? Are there any significant differences?
Yeah, there were quite a few differences. Last year, the adjective that I would use to describe it is crazy. The whole event was crazy. It was held in the very marquee hotel right in the middle of Times Square with all the tourists and all that craziness. Tens of thousands of people, lots of sponsors. It was a huge event. This year, the adjective I would use is sober. It was a very sober event. It was very sedate, not necessarily in a bad way. It meant that you had time for more in-depth and it was a great networking and B2B event, but it definitely lacked the pizzazz of previous years.
Yeah, and I agree very much with Alun in many ways. Obviously, I wasn't at NFT-Nyc last year, but I definitely think, just to add on to Alun's point, is that this year was very much more focused on discussing use cases and projects that solve real problems, rather than just the hype that we have seen around NFT collectible art over the last 1 or 2 years. So yeah, there was definitely a real motivation to discuss real world problems and how we can solve those together.
Really cool. Okay, well then let's move forward with the event itself. Was there any highlight moments for any of you that stuck with you till this day?
Yeah, one thing that really stuck out to me was how many companies are building really innovative products and projects right now, whether it's new games or whether it's loyalty programs. We saw a great talk from the guys at Decathlon. It was really interesting to see what they're doing. Obviously, it's a huge brand in the European Union. It's still a nascent brand over there in the States. So that was very interesting to see. And so it was great to see different people really moving away from speculation and talking about how can Web3, blockchain, NFTs actually be useful for the general public, right? And that's something, it's something we've been talking about Freeverse for ages, right? It's moving away from speculation and user-generated value. And it was great to see that the wider industry is moving in that same direction as well.
Yeah, and on my side, I spent a lot of time on speaking to gaming projects. I'm also seeing a lot of the talks that related to gaming, and I just love to see the conversations around how we can onboard the next million of users onto NFT technology, right? And I think the conversation has been going on for a while, right? It's definitely not a new conversation, but I think that people are much more aware of the pain points today that we are experiencing. Before, it was kind of like, floating conversations, but I definitely feel that with the current market situation, people are much more aware of these pain points and more actively trying to solve these pain points and making sure that we can probably onboard these next users onto the gaming world.
Really exciting, and since and maybe to a new million users, hopefully to a billion users as well. Moving billion from collectibles and scarcity and speculation. Soren, for you, were there any surprising elements that you came across at NFT-Nyc that you weren't expecting? And could you also maybe compare that with NFT London?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most surprising element for me was to see that NFT-Nyc was a bit more widespread in terms of the use cases that were being discussed, right? Whereas NFT London was sort of the typical cases, right, around the conversations around ticketing systems, loyalty programs, and gaming. I think NFT-Nyc was much more around other use cases as well. On top of that, like data management and also the health sector, which I thought was extremely interesting. I think NFT technology is something that can potentially impact a lot of different industries. I just love to see so many different industries experimenting with it.
Wow. Yeah, it does sound like those industries wouldn't have anything to do with NFT technology, but as we continue to move forward, it does seem like they can also infiltrate that space too. Exciting. Alun, could you also share with us some highlights from your talk, Changing Business and Finance Practices with NFTs, and how did that go?
Yeah, I was very lucky to be sharing a stage on a panel with three amazing people: Andrew Nicolau from Origin Protocol, Lisa Tam from Economic Design, and Pat White, the CEO of Bitwave. It was, great to be on a stage with such senior people with loads of really good ideas. People are really doing interesting stuff in the sector. Our conversation was very varied, right? With such a title, changing business and finance properties with or the future of that with NFTs, and the topics range from dynamic NFTs when we're doing it Freeverse to DeFi to gaming and everything in between, right? So there was a very vibrant conversation, and I was pleased to share that stage and provide some hopefully some points of thought for the people that are in the audience.
Great. Well, it's great to hear that you had a wonderful time on the panel. And thank you, Alun and Soren, for giving us your feedback from Nft.Nyc. And hopefully we'll see you next year as well.
Thanks, Kidan.
Thank you, Kidan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.